print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Doug, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the August 25th, 2026 issue of the Buffalo Criterion on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. In local news, Buffalo's Olmsted Parks bring back free family movie nights. Grab a blanket and a lawn chair. Buffalo Olmsted Parks Conservancy is bringing back its free family movie night series, giving families across the city a reason to gather under the stars in two of Buffalo's most beloved green spaces. Where and when? The series unfolds across 4 evenings in 2 parks. Prospect Park at Connecticut Street and Niagara Street, August 14th, The Wild Robot, and August 28th, The Princess and the Frog. Riverside Park by the T-Ball Diamond, Crawley and Tonawanda Street, September 4th, The Mitchells versus the Machines. Each screening runs approximately 8 to 9:30 p.m. with films beginning at sunset. What to bring? Admission is completely free. Organizers recommend bringing a picnic blanket, lawn chairs, and your family's favorite snacks to settle in for the evening. Since the events are weather dependent, please refer to the Conservancy's Facebook and Instagram at Buffalo Parks at BFLOPARKS for last-minute updates before heading out. Community support behind the screen. The series is made possible in part thanks to funding secured by New York State Assemblyman John D. Rivera. The Conservancy is also inviting local business and community members to become official movie night crew sponsors with recognition packages ranging from $500 to $1,000 that include name and logo placement on marketing materials and social media shoutouts. Assemblyman John D. Rivera said, "Buffalo Parks are some of our community's greatest assets, and programs like Family Movie Night help bring neighbors together in a welcoming and affordable way." I was proud to secure state funding to support the Buffalo Olmsted Parks Conservancy and help make these free public events possible for families across our city. Whether it's introducing children to a favorite film, enjoying an evening outdoors, or simply spending quality time together, these movie nights create lasting memories while showcasing the natural beauty of our park system. I encourage families from across Buffalo to bring a blanket, gather the loved ones, and take advantage of this wonderful summer tradition. Whether you're a longtime Olmsted Parks regular or looking for a new summer tradition, this movie night series offers a simple, free way to enjoy Buffalo's historic parks with the whole family. Bookmark www.bfloparks.org/movie nights. That is buffaloparks.org/movie nights for future reference. For sponsorship details, contact Anna Kaplan, Deputy Director of Strategic Initiatives and Development, at anna@buffaloparks.org. That's ANNA at BFLOPARKS.org. In the History section, Lessons from the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Monday, August 17th, marked the 139th birthday of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Marcus Garvey was born on August 17, 1887, in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica. In September 1937, he assembled a small group of his most trusted organizers. For almost a quarter of a century, he had led the largest international mass movement in the history of African people called the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the UNIA. Now he wanted to pass on the lessons he had learned to the group best suited to carry the struggle forward. For 1 month, he instructed this elite student body 12 hours a day and 7 days a week. The sessions were secret, and much of the introduction and instruction was not written down. The students did, however, receive written copies of 22 lessons, which Garvey called the Course of African Philosophy. These lessons are contained in a book called Message to the People, the Course of African Philosophy. The book stated the following: "Let me hope that whoever reads this, that they may use these lessons wisely, for in these lessons there is eternal life for Africans at home and abroad." The following are some of the lessons taught by Garvey. You must never stop learning. The world's greatest men and women were people who educated themselves outside of the university with all the knowledge that the university gives. One must not stop reading. Read everything that you can read. The literature that we read should include the biography and autobiography of men and women who have accomplished greatness in their particular line of work. You should also read the best poetry for inspiration. Read history incessantly until you master it. If you do not know what went on before you came here and what is happening at the time you live, you will not know the world and will be ignorant of the world and mankind. Never write or speak on a subject that you know nothing about, for there's always somebody who knows that particular subject better than you. You can know any subject under the sun by reading about it. You should read at least 4 hours a day. The best time to read is in the evening after you've retired from your work and after you've rested. If you desire to accomplish greatness, you must first decide in your own mind in what direction you desire to seek that greatness. And when you decide in your own mind what direction you want to go, then work unceasingly towards it. No one is ever too old to learn. You should take advantage of every opportunity. If you should hear of a great man or woman who is lecture or speak in your town on any given subject, always make time to go hear him or her. Anything that you're going to challenge, you must first know about it so that you're prepared to defend your position. Therefore, get knowledge, get it quickly, get it studiously, but get it anyway. Let's remember the lessons of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. Teach them to our youth. They will help us survive in this world. Florence B. Price, "My soul is anchored in the Lord." Florence B. Price, an award-winning pianist and songwriter, composed one of the most famous songs heard in our churches across the United States called "My Soul is Anchored in the Lord." It is a deeply spiritual song with a powerful meaning. When Florence B. Price wrote this song, African Americans were experiencing racial injustice and inequality in many areas across the country. She was born Florence Beatrice Smith in Little Rock, Arkansas on April 9, 1887. Her father, James Smith, was a prominent dentist who was born to free blacks in Delaware. He was also a painter whose work was exhibited at the Columbian Exposition in Chicago in 1893. Her mother, also named Florence, was a music teacher. She encouraged her daughter to learn how to play the piano. At the age of 4, Florence gave her first piano performance. Classical music was valued in her home. As Florence grew older, her passion for music composition increased. She wanted more education in her chosen field. In the early years, she pretended to be Mexican due to the stigma towards African Americans during that time. Florence was very light-skinned. She taught briefly in Arkansas and then moved to Atlanta in 1910. She became head of the music department at Clark University in 1912. Florence married an attorney named Thomas J. Price, and they moved back to Arkansas. After a series of racial incidents, especially a lynching in 1927, the family moved to Chicago, Illinois. She continued her career in studies in music. Florence studied music composition, orchestration, and published some of her work. She enrolled at the Chicago Musical College, Chicago Teachers College, Chicago University, and the American Conservatory of Music. Here she began a study of language and liberal arts. Financial struggles led to a divorce in 1931. As a result, Florence raised her 2 daughters as a single mother. To make ends meet, She worked as an organist for silent films and composed songs for radio ads under a pen name. Despite the troubles, her illness, and a lack of money, she continued to write music. After her divorce, she moved into a tenement house where she met such talented African Americans as the poet Langston Hughes. Florence never gave up writing songs. She became the most prominent African American composer of the 20th century, along with William Grant Still. She came into contact with Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marian Anderson, and the famous dancer Katherine Dunham. Florence wrote more than 300 songs. She also integrated African American rhythms and style in her music. This became very important to her as she composed her music. The great American Marian Anderson sang the song, "My Soul is Anchored to the Lord," in front of 75,000 people on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1939. Florence B. Price left a great legacy in music. Many composers of today stand on her shoulders. She was a true pioneer. Unfortunately, she was buried in an unmarked grave when she died on June 3, 1953 in Chicago. It was not until the 1960s that she received the recognition that she deserved. In 1964, Chicago School was named in her honor. The great Leontine Price performed her songs at the White House at the invitation of former President Jimmy Carter. A film of her life was shown on the Education Channel, funded in part by the University of Arkansas. The film is entitled The Caged Bird, The Life and Music of Florence B. Price. The Collector, Arthur A. Schomburg, a Puerto Rican who made outstanding contributions to the U.S. He was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, the son of a free black midwife from St. Croix. Her father was of German heritage. Historian Joel Augustus Rogers called him the Sherlock Holmes of black history. Schomburg dedicated his life to collecting thousands of old books, old manuscripts, pictures, and valuable letters that described black life and history. He produced lists of black artists and poets. He wrote numerous articles for magazines and newspapers and shared his knowledge with the world. Schomburg made an impression as a researcher and a man who would not give up the search for black history and black men and women. He was determined to prove that his fifth-grade teacher was wrong when she told him that people of color had no history and no achievements. Schomburg is often referred to as the Afro-Puerto Rican scholar. He was proud of his heritage and once stated, "I am a Puerto Rican of African descent." Arthur Schomburg was determined to connect the African people to the history of the world. He was instrumental in organizing the Black Society for Historical Research. In 1892, he was elected president of the American Negro Academy. He spent every spare moment tracing the clues and recording the smallest detail of black history. Schomburg discovered a valuable manuscript written by Lemuel Haynes, a black minister of a large white New England church, before the emancipation of the slaves. Many of the books that he discovered were bound in expensive leather and worth a great deal of money. Schomburg had in his possession rare books and African artifacts. He was able to locate the most difficult books and information about the history of blacks in the world. By 1925, he had collected more than 5,000 books and other written material about the history of blacks. He was a researcher who sought the truth. Schomburg traveled widely and continued to make discoveries about black history wherever he went. He visited Europe and continued his research. In Spain, he found out that two of the most well-known Spanish artists were black. They were Juan Pareja and Sebastian Gomez. On his visits to France, Germany, and England, he made similar discoveries of distinguished people of color who made tremendous contributions to these countries. Schomburg collected numerous books on anthropology, folklore, poetry, sociology, and the customs of African people around the world. He joined the ranks of the Masons and became a strong voice against the racist view of white Masons that black Masons were not legitimate. Schomburg was also instrumental in translating the Masonic rituals from Spanish to English for new members. As a member of the El Sol de Cuba Lodge No. 18, founded by Cuban and Puerto Ricans, he rose quickly in the lodge and held high positions. Due to his ability to speak Spanish, he was able to converse with Masons in Santo Domingo, Central and South America. Schomburg's work inspired many writers and artists of the Harlem Renaissance. He also gave financial assistance to aspiring writers. His involvement in the cultural life of Harlem led to friendships with such talented writers as Langston Hughes and Claude McKay. Schomburg also admired the work of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, who believed that blacks should be independent and establish their own businesses and institutions. Schomburg contributed articles to Garvey's Negro World newspaper and gave him historical items from his vast collection on black history. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo Criterion on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Selma Burke. Her artwork appears on the U.S. Dime. Selma Burke was an outstanding sculptor, educator, and role model for aspiring black artists. She started sculpting as a child. At the age of 7, she liked to dig in the dirt of her home in Mooresville, North Carolina. She would squeeze wet clay through her fingers, and she once said that it was there in 1907 that I discovered me. Selma was born to Neil and Mary Elizabeth Burke in 1900. Her full name was Selma Hortense Burke. She was the 7th of 10 children. Her father was an AME Zion minister who encouraged her interest in art. However, her mother insisted that she go to school to enter a profession where she could earn a living. So Selma studied nursing. She became a registered nurse and moved to New York City, where she worked as a nurse. Every moment that she could, Selma molded raw materials into various shapes. This was her first love. She loved to create historical figures out of wood, brass, and stone. Selma Burke became known for her work and earned a fellowship to study art. In 1935, she received a grant from the Rosenwald Foundation, and in 1936, she was awarded a grant from the Beeler Foundation. She also traveled to Europe and studied under famous sculptors in Vienna and Paris. In 1941, she earned a fine arts degree from Columbia University in New York City. She taught art for the next 40 years, working some of the time at the Harlem Community Arts Center. Selma also founded the Selma Burke Art School and Art Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She is best known for the portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt that was the model for his image on the U.S. dime. Dr. Selma Burke also did sculptures of such famous people as Booker T. Washington, Duke Ellington, Mary McLeod Bethune, John Brown, and President Calvin Coolidge. Selma Burke earned 2 doctorate degrees. She became an honorary member of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Governor Milton Shapp declared July 29, 1975, Selma Burke Day, in recognition of her outstanding contributions toward art and education. In 1979, President Jimmy Carter honored her at the White House for her work to the visual arts and called her a shining beacon for all artists. Selma Burke died at the age of 94 in 1994 in New Hope, Pennsylvania. Next time you look at the U.S. dime, remember the artwork of Dr. Selma Burke. New York State Consumer Protection provides guidance on how to buy prescription medication online. Increased use of online pharmacies can potentially create a risk for health and finances. Secretary Mosley. Access to safe and affordable medications is essential for all New Yorkers. While online pharmacies can offer convenience, it's important to be cautious and avoid fraudulent websites that can jeopardize both health and finances. The New York Department of State Division of Consumer Protection today warned about the significant rise in the number of consumers using online pharmacies in recent years, primarily driven by perceptions of convenience, lower prices, and product availability. Despite potential benefits, There are significant areas of concern relating to these businesses, including the prevalence of fraudulent websites, unlicensed pharmacies, risk of receiving unsafe medication, fraud, and identity theft. As New Yorkers increasingly turn to online pharmacies to purchase medications, the Division of Consumer Protection offers key steps to avoid unsafe risks. What you need to know about online pharmacies. An online pharmacy is a pharmacy that operates over the internet and mails prescribed medications to its customers. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, there are approximately 35,000 online active pharmacy websites operating worldwide, a significant number which operate in violation of state or federal laws and practice standards. Although government agencies and private organizations have worked hard to curb the illegal sale of prescription drugs online, the problem persists. To appear legitimate, these illicit online pharmacies use professional-looking website designs. They promote bogus testimonials and deepfake celebrity endorsements on social media and other websites, along with depictions of physicians or other medical professionals to create a false impression of credibility and trust, while selling unnecessary, dangerous, counterfeit, or misbranded drugs. Risks involved with illicit online pharmacies. Unsafe medication. The FDA has warned that there are many unsafe online pharmacies that claim to sell prescription drugs, yet those products may be counterfeit or illegally compounded medications. In October of 2024, the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, issued a public safety alert citing an increase in illegal online pharmacies selling and shipping counterfeit pills made with fentanyl and methamphetamine to unsuspecting customers in the United States. The FBI issued a similar alert in 2025, warning the public of fraudulently compounded drugs claiming to contain popular weight loss drugs that did not actually contain any of the claimed medication and had high levels of impurities or contained unsafe or unapproved drugs. Counterfeit and fraudulently compounded medicines can be harmful to your health, as it may contain ingredients that cause serious health risks, harmful side effects, or ineffective treatment. Scams and identity theft. Online pharmacy scams often target expensive prescriptions that are in high demand or that insurance plans don't cover. By falling for their offer of a great deal or easy access, you may be setting yourself up for identity theft when entering your personal information into one of these fake storefronts. Illegal sites often exist to harvest personal, financial, and medical information for identity thefts. Watch out for these online pharmacy red flags. Medication that does not require a prescription, deeply discounted prices, online pharmacies that do not have a licensed pharmacist to answer questions and concerns, or websites that do not clearly state that they will not share your personal information. What to look for when ordering from an online pharmacy. Licensing and accreditation. Verify that you are purchasing prescription medication from a licensed online pharmacy. Online pharmacies shipping into New York State must register with the New York Board of Pharmacy. You can check online at eservices.nysed.gov/professions/verification-search. That's eservices.nysd.gov/professions/verification-search to confirm your preferred source's license, ensuring compliance with New York State and federal laws for digital prescriptions and telehealth. Physical locations. Look for a physical U.S. address and telephone number, not just an email address or contact form. Access to a pharmacist. Legitimate pharmacies must offer access to a licensed pharmacist to answer questions. Be sure to consult your own physician and obtain a prescription before starting any new drug. A legitimate online pharmacy will not sell medication without a prescription. Secure payment method. Legitimate online pharmacies offer the option to pay with a credit card, which offers better fraud protection. Privacy policies. Look for the privacy policies that clearly state the company won't sell your personal information. For additional information on how to buy medicines online, check out the FDA's Be Safe RX. How to report a fake online pharmacy. Report fake online pharmacies to the FDA Internet Pharmacy Task Force, the primary federal agency for reporting counterfeit, fraudulent, or unsafe internet sales. Call 855-543-3784. That's 855-543-3784. To report a complaint against a pharmacist or pharmacy located in New York State, contact the New York State Office of Professional Discipline online or the New York State Department of State's Division of Consumer Protection. In the health section, Senator April N. Baskin and the American Red Cross honor Sickle Cell Awareness Month. Senator April N. M. Baskin, in partnership with the American Red Cross of Western New York, will host an informative panel discussion in honor of Sickle Cell Awareness Month on Friday, August 28th at 10 a.m. at the American Red Cross chapter, located at 786 Delaware Avenue in Buffalo, New York, 14209. The event will feature guest panelists and experts in their field as they discuss sickle cell disease and how the community can support sickle cell fighters and their loved ones. Sickle cell disease is the most common genetic blood disorder in the United States, and regular blood donations are critical to help manage extreme pain and life-threatening complications. As many as 100 units of blood per patient per year. Over time, frequent transfusions can make finding incompatible blood types more difficult when patients develop an immune response against blood from donors that is not closely matched to the blood of the recipient. Blood donors who are Black and African Americans are almost 3 times more likely to be a match for patients with sickle cell disease, making blood and platelet donations vital in supporting sickle cell fighters. Senator April N. M. Baskin said, "Every person living with sickle cell disease deserves access to the life-saving care they need, which depends on having a reliable supply of blood. Because sickle cell disease disproportionately affects the Black community, increasing awareness and encouraging more Black and African American blood donors to roll up their sleeves is essential to improving health outcomes and saving lives. For individuals living with sickle cell disease, access to the right blood at the right time can make all the difference," said Nick Bond, Regional CEO, American Red Cross of Western New York. The American Red Cross is proud to partner with Senator Baskin and community leaders to raise awareness about this disease and the critical need for blood donors, especially within the Black and African American community. To register to attend, the panel will be moderated by Glenn Jackson, Head of Engagement and Belonging for M&T Bank, and the doors open at 9:30 a.m. Those interested to attend need to register by visiting https://shorturl.at/9z189. That's shorturl.at/9z189. As September marks Sickle Cell Awareness Month, the community is encouraged to make an impact by rolling up a sleeve to donate life-saving blood and platelets for those in need. Once again, the event will be held Friday, August 28th, 2026, from 10 to 11:30 a.m., and the doors open at 9:30 a.m. The event is held at the Red Cross Western New York Chapter Office, 786 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14209. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo Criterion on the Buffalo Frontier Radio Reading Service. Under the Is That Right column, Frank Gist reads from My Midnight Train to History. Around the turn of the year, something inspired me to take a break and get away from Buffalo's tundra-like weather, and I decided to visit my 2 daughters who live in the warm Houston, Texas. This is something I've done several times previously, but I'm getting old and impatient with flying and the TSA scrutiny, so I decided to do something different this time and take the Amtrak train to Houston to make an adventure out of my vacation. I hadn't ridden on a train in many years, and never for that distance. The 1,500-mile trip from Buffalo to Houston required transferring trains in Chicago. A few weeks before my train departure, I saw a Facebook post that an old grammar school friend, Cheryl Spearman Tyson, had posted. She moved to Little Rock, Arkansas several years ago, and we have remained real friends for 65 years. She announced a very special birthday party for her mother, Mrs. Anna Lee Spearman, also formerly of Buffalo, who celebrated her 107th birthday. You read that right, 107 years old, born in 1919 in Little Rock, Arkansas. As a boy in the 3rd grade, her son Daryl Spearman was my best buddy at PS 53, and I would have sleepovers at the Spearman home on Humboldt Avenue on several occasions before the expressway was constructed. Mrs. Spearman was like a perfect TV mom, the picture-perfect homemaker, something that made an impression on my young mind. I never forgot those special times. By sheer serendipity, I realized the train route to Houston stopped in Little Rock, Arkansas. I adjusted my trip itinerary to get off in Arkansas to attend the party, and it worked out perfectly. The train dropped me off at the Little Rock train station at 4:30 a.m. Thank goodness for modern tech, smartphones, and Ubers. I was able to summon an Uber to take me downtown Little Rock. When I arrived at the gathering the next day, Mrs. Spearman recognized immediately. She had not seen me in over 60 years. She is still truly remarkable human being, with all of her faculties and sensibilities, as good as anyone in the room. She looks unbelievable. She appears no older than 80 years of age, with beautiful skin and few wrinkles. Truly remarkable. The party was organized by her devoted daughter, Cheryl Spearman Tyson. Scores of family and friends were on hand to wish her well and to sing happy birthday to Anna, the Stevie Wonder version. The local media covered this remarkable story. After the party, I stayed the weekend in Little Rock to visit my old friends before deciding to fly to Houston. After learning the train to Houston left Little Rock at 4:30 a.m., I wasn't going to get up that early. In conclusion, I thoroughly enjoyed my train trip. It was relaxing and stress-free. However, I had a sleeping car accommodation, a bed where I slept like a baby the whole trip. However, I had traveled by coach, sitting in seats the entire trip. I might have had a different take on this trip. As of this moment, I'm still on vacation in Houston, where it is 70 degrees, chilling with my daughters and grandbabies. Frank Gist also opines we need a new kind of justice. Recently, I was watching a news report of a crime captured on someone's Ring camera. The video showed 2 black boys jumping from a car with guns drawn to strong-arm rob an elderly black woman in broad daylight. The brazenness of the crime made me say out loud to myself, they need their asses whipped. According to the report, the culprits were caught, one being a 14-year-old. I can't help wondering what or should happen to the cowardly culprits other than a stint in crime school, aka prison. It reminded me of a column I wrote many years about the city of Singapore, Indonesia, which is ranked the 3rd safest city in the world. In that Muslim nation, they believe in corporal punishment and caning their criminals. Caning is essentially using a bamboo rod to whip the criminal across their backside. The practice is carried out by specially trained police and masters of pain. They literally whip on the criminal's butt and produce blackout pain with each stroke. Maybe it's time for America to bring back State-sanctioned ass whippings? Is it cruel and unusual punishment? Maybe. But allowing people to live in a perpetual state of uncertainty and fear because people have been made to believe that crime and mayhem is just life in the hood and nothing can be done about it, that is cruel and unusual as well for society. According to recent research, caning is the most dreaded punishment among criminals, according to some reports. It was said some convicts would rather serve more time in prison than face caning. Why not bring caning to America? These boys need their asses whipped for real. Something must be done to bring back law and order. The sad fact is, black people live under the tyranny of their own children. I'm certainly not suggesting caning will be a panacea for crime prevention, but it will give the courts another tool for rehabilitation. In today's world, going to jail is no problem with many young people. In fact, it can be a perverse red badge of honor for street cred. As a school child, I was paddled by teachers with an inch-thick wood boards of education and was occasionally whipped with a belt by my father. So I know the pain can be a real motivator to do the right thing. Nobody died, but the prospect of pain as a consequence for my actions greatly influenced me. I know. Some will object to caning on the grounds that it harkens back to slavery. But if you're in jail, you are a slave. And if it requires cruel and unusual punishment to control you, then so be it. If I were a presidential candidate, I would make caning a campaign issue. I bet I'd get many votes. I've written previously about a relative through marriage who lived in Saudi Arabia for 20 plus years, where there's a very low crime rate. He told me this is attributed to religious customs and societal norms. He told me that in Saudi Arabia, that are open-air gold markets, but there is little to no crime, primarily because thieves will be apprehended by the people before the police. Also, those who are caught have a chance their hands will be cut off. It might sound cruel and unusual, but it works. In America, a crazy person can massacre scores of innocent people, but will not or cannot receive the death penalty. They get 3 hots and a cot with the hope of freedom someday at the taxpayer's expense. It is not fair. Under the editorial section, Ben Jealous writes, "Count them, then hire them." 3 weeks before he died, Dr. King stood up and argued with a number. The July jobs report say he was right. 3 weeks before he was killed, Martin Luther King Jr. stood up in a high school gym in Michigan and argued with a number. It was March of 1968. The government said unemployment in the black community was 8.8%. King said it was almost twice that, not because anybody was cooking the books. The country felt good about jobs that spring. The national unemployment rate was 3.6%, near the lowest since the Korean War. Washington called that full employment. King was telling them that the number was hiding people. He explained how the count worked. It counted people out of work and still looking. It did not count the people who had stopped looking. He described them plainly. People who had lost hope. People who had so many doors shut in their faces they quit knocking. These people are considered the discouraged, he said. Add them back, he argued, and the true figure was closer to 16 or 17%. That was 58 years ago. The count still works much the same way. Presidents have come and gone. The count has not changed. Last week, the government released the July jobs report. The country lost 23,000 jobs. It corrected May and June, erasing 103,000 jobs we thought we had. Over the past year, we have averaged about 34,000 new jobs a month. Almost nobody is being hired. Outside a few industries, almost nobody is being fired either. If you have a job, you're probably safe. If you need one, the door will not open. Then came the number that would have gotten King out of his chair. The unemployment rate went down. It fell from 4.2% to 4.1%. That happened because 264,000 people left the labor force. They did not find work. They stopped being counted. You are counted as unemployed only if you have no job and you've looked for one in the last 4 weeks. Stop looking and you are not counted as unemployed. You are not counted as all. Nearly 6 million Americans say they want a job and are not counted. They are not lazy. They stopped looking because they stopped working. They did not stop wanting a job. They stopped believing one was coming. 30 years ago, I crisscrossed this country arguing against NAFTA. Corporate lobbyists said that we sounded like Chicken Little. 2 decades and 63,000 shuttered factories later, every exaggeration they accused us of had come true. Those factories did not close on black towns or white towns. They closed on both. King saw it coming. He wrote in 1967 that there were twice as many white poor as Negro poor in America. So he was not just giving a speech that night. He was building something. He had marched to desegregate the lunch counter. That fight was won. The fight left was whether a man could afford what he was on it. In December of 1967, he announced the Poor People's Campaign. The demand was jobs or income for all. He meant to bring the poorest families in America to Washington and set them where the country could not look away. Not only black families, white families out of the mountains, Mexican-American families, Native families, Puerto Rican families. One caravan left Chicago on May 8, 1968. King never saw it. He was killed in Memphis on April 4th. The campaign went on without him and mostly failed. They built a camp on the National Mall and called it Resurrection City. Rain turned it to mud. Police cleared it in June. No job bills passed. Nobody got a guaranteed income. But King was right about the count, and he is still right. A country that stops counting people finds it easy to forget them. There will be plenty of arguing about these numbers. Arguing has never hired anybody. Only people hire people. So here's what I ask you. If you run a business, interview the person your software screened out. Ask about the gap in the work history instead of assuming the worst. If you know somebody who quit looking, walk with them back to the door. Say their name to somebody who is hiring. If you belong to a church or a union or a lodge, find out this month who among you is out of work. Do not stop praying for them. Make the call. Dr. King argued with a number because he knew a number can hide a person. Count them, then hire them. The Northland community invited to a Summer Breeze block party. Free Community National Night Out celebration will promote neighborhood unity, nonviolence, and positive relationships with law enforcement. The Northland Beltline Taxpayers Association, in partnership with the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation, the Northland Workforce Training Center, and Intersect Buffalo, will host the Summer Breeze Block Party on Saturday, August 29, 2026, from noon to 3 p.m. at 683 Northland Avenue in Buffalo. Presented in the spirit of National Night Out, Summer Breeze is designed to promote nonviolence, encourage positive interaction, and strengthen the relationships that help the Northland Corridor and neighborhood thrive through its continued partnerships between residents and supporting the redevelopment of the Northland campus. Ultimately, bringing residents, families, community organizations, businesses, and law enforcement representatives together for an afternoon of fellowship, entertainment, and neighborhood pride. Summer Breeze is about bringing neighbors together and creating a welcoming space where families can enjoy themselves, build relationships, and celebrate the positive things happening in our community, said Stephanie Lee, president of the Northland Beltline Taxpayers Association. Our residents remain committed to this neighborhood through some very difficult years. Today, we are proud to see new investment, new opportunities, and new life returning to Northland. Northland Avenue has experienced a significant transformation through public and private investment, including the development of the Northland Workforce Training Center and the creation of new employment training and business opportunities. Longtime residents and community stakeholders continue to play an important role in ensuring that the neighborhood's growth benefits the people who've called Northland home for generations. Economic and neighborhood development are ultimately about people, said Brandy Merriweather, president of Buffalo Urban Development Corporation. Summer Breeze gives us an opportunity to celebrate the residents who remain invested in this neighborhood while connecting families to the opportunities and resources emerging across the Northland campus. The free celebration will feature music by a live DJ, dancing, children's activities, food, community resources, and opportunities for residents to connect with the organizations and people helping strengthen the Northland neighborhood. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo Criterion on the Buffalo Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Under the biography section is a story of Frank Elliott Merriweather Sr. Frank Elliott Merriweather Sr. was born on March 21, 1893 in San Antonio, Texas. Mr. Merriweather graduated from Tuskegee Institute in 1910, where he earned degrees in journalism and print operations. He and Carmelita Mitchell married on June 24, 1914, and settled in Houston, Texas, where all but one of their children was born. Mr. Merriweather first moved from Houston, Texas to New York City and worked for the New York Age, a nationally known black newspaper. In 1922, he moved with his family to Buffalo, New York. In Buffalo, Mr. Merriweather took a job as a boilermaker with the Lackawanna Railroad. In addition to this regular job with the railroad, he worked with Leroy Murray, a black Buffalonian who edited and published the Buffalo Booster, a local black newspaper. The Booster was published in Murray's shop at 137 Clinton Street. Mr. Merriweather established his own print shop in 1923 at 456 Jefferson. 2 years later, he moved his shop to 40 William Street. In 1925, the Buffalo Criterion was first published. Mrs. Merriweather got into the newspaper and printing business with her husband in 1925. During this period, she was one of the few women involved in that kind of work. She remained an indispensable partner in her husband's newspaper and printing business until his death in 1959. Following Mr. Merriweather's death, his son Frank Jr. took over publication of the paper. The Criterion has remained a Merriweather family enterprise since its inception and continues to publish an edition weekly. The paper has observed over 90 years of continuous publication. Mr. Merriweather also organized the first political club for African Americans. He founded the Booker T. Washington Republican Club for men and the Martha Washington Club for women. Also, thanks to his leadership, the first African American voter registration drive was held in Buffalo. He also served for 2 terms as an aide to Assemblyman Frank Bernhard, New York State Legislature. Mr. Merriweather was one of the originators of the New York Negro Crispus Attucks Republican League. He was engaged in numerous other community and civic activities, including being the first Negro keeper of the William Street Bathhouse. Mr. Merriweather and his wife were the parents of 4 children: Frank E. Jr., Hewlett Merriweather Curry, a noted musician, Thyra Merriweather Charles, the second African American to earn a nursing degree, and Barbara Merriweather Sims, judge and attorney. Mr. Merriweather was 71 years of age at the time of his death, and he is buried in Forest Lawn Cemetery. In the education section, UB Study rethinks the dropout crime connection. Dropping out of high school has been linked to higher rates of delinquency and lower socioeconomic status, but thinking of high school dropouts collectively as one group is a flawed belief that could be affecting interventions. Not all dropouts are the same, said Ashley Barr, Ph.D. Associate Professor of Sociology and Criminology in the University of Buffalo College of Arts and Sciences. Barr is corresponding author of a new study suggesting that dropping out of high school affects crime and later experiences when those former students reach emerging adulthood from 18 to 27 years old. But importantly, the research shows that the link between dropout and crime activity varies by pathway, particularly if a student is pushed or pulled out of school. Students pushed out of school include those explicitly pushed through expulsion or suspension, along with those implicitly pushed by feeling either unwelcome or believing the school did not provide for future success. Students pulled out of school left for reasons external to the school itself, like having to care for a family member or to work to support their family. Relative to their non-dropout peers, pushouts exhibited unique patterns of criminal involvement across the transition to adulthood and were more likely than pullouts to be employed, says Barr. Criminal involvement across this period for youths pulled out of school did not vary significantly from those who never dropped out. Students who did not fit into either category because of school closures, lack of transportation, or moving away looked a lot like pushouts in terms of criminal involvement and their attachment to conventional institutions such as marriage and work. If we were to examine dropouts as a whole, without accounting for why they exited school, such distinctions would be obscured, says Barr. The findings published in the journal Emerging Adulthood have important policy implications. School administrators might try to better support students who find traditional school atmosphere unwelcoming and provide alternative routes to graduation, says Barr. We can also develop interventions that encourage attachments to conventional institutions if students are pushed out. But we have to think broadly and think not only in terms of school discipline and its implications, but ways in which school can be made to feel more welcoming for students who did not think that school is the right place for them. The study used the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth from 1997, a nationally representative sample consisting of about 6,700 respondents first interviewed between the ages of 12 and 17, and subsequently re-interviewed annually or biannually through the age of 27. Their analysis takes many factors for dropping out into account so that students most at risk are compared with others faced by similar challenges. It is difficult to assess how dropping out of school matters for later outcomes because those who dropped out and those who did not were likely already different before they left school, Barr says. The statistical approach we used allowed us to match students on risk factors for dropping out and to compare students with similar characteristics. The current study draws on earlier work conducted by Rebecca Boylan, PhD, an analyst at the University of Texas at Austin, which considers policies in school attachment. It seems that school districts are paying attention to this sort of work, relaxing zero-tolerance policies and considering the collateral consequences of harsh punishments in schools, says Barr. It's a start, but there is still dramatic inequity in the extent to which schools are responding. St. Brian Clothiers proudly presents the Dress the Teacher's Clothing giveaway. For the third year in a row, St. Brian Clothiers opens up their showroom with a massive selection of men's dress and business casual clothing for back to school at King Urban Life Center at 938 Genesee Street. Racks of suits, dress shirts, slacks, blazers, polos, sweaters, ties, shoes, and belts will be available, all for free. Hundreds of selections of these items will be made available to teachers of all levels of education for the school year. Gearing up for the 15th annual Cruisin' for a Cure Buffalo Niagara. Richard Davis has been behind the steering wheel for Men Allied for the Need to Understand Prostate Cancer, Man Up, for several years now, fueled by a determination to help as many men get screened for cancer as possible. He first got involved in the organization, officially Man Up Buffalo, when working as a wellness coordinator in a previous job. Davis was looking to provide health-related content for a lunch and learn session, and through a contact at Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center, began laying the groundwork that would become foundational to the annual Cruisin' for a Cause Cure Buffalo Niagara event. Using a car show scheduled this year for Saturday, September 26th from 9 a.m. until 4 a.m. on the Roswell Park campus in downtown Buffalo as an entry point for men to get screened as a way to get the whole family involved out for a fun day together. Cruisin' for a Cure is our flagship event, Davis said. We want to get as many people screened at the event as possible. Men ages 45 through 75, or starting at age 40 for those with a family history of cancer, can register in advance for the screening at www.roswellpark.org/cruisinforacure, which includes a prostate-specific antigen PSA test in the form of a blood draw conducted by Roswell Park phlebotomists inside the Scott Beeler Clinical Sciences Center. The PSA test is followed by a digital rectal exam provided by experts from the Roswell Park's urology team. Prostate cancer awareness is a very important topic that we should discuss more, Davis said. Screening is so important because it helps you establish baselines and helps you track your health over time. If you have a primary doctor, they can monitor your PSA test every year and tell you if things have progressed. The mission of Man Up Buffalo has never changed: to spread awareness about the importance of prostate cancer screening for men, particularly black men and those with a family history of prostate cancer, and to encourage them to get tested every year. This year's event, like those before it, will feature classic and modern cars brought by several clubs, including the Southern Tier Auto Buffs, the Old Cranks, the Drifters, Eastside Classics, the OG Cruisers from Niagara Falls, and the Rock Hard Corvette Club from Rochester. More than 20 awards will be given out for individual cars, motorcycles, and trucks as part of the show. There will be food trucks and entertainment in addition to meet and greet opportunity with Hall of Famer and football legend Thurman Thomas. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the August 25th, 2026 issue of the Buffalo Criterion. We read from the Buffalo Criterion every Friday at 7 p.m. Your reader has been Doug. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the New York Times. Following that at 9 o'clock is Discover Magazine. And at 10 o'clock is episode number 13 of Daughter of Egypt by Marie Benedict. Stay with us. Radio Reading mails out a large print program schedule to our listeners every other month. If you have not received a Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service large print program schedule in the mail, please call us at 716-821-5555. We will make sure that you receive one every other month. A Braille version of the schedule is also available upon request. Our number again is 716-821-5555.
Hello, this is Will Evans, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the August 22nd